So I was watching Mission Impossible the other day, and halfway through the movie, the only thing that was going through my mind was, hunt the hare and turn her down the rocky road and all the way to Double and Whack Florida. So yeah, this might be a little bit too late, but there's still one cinema here that's still showing the movie. So let's talk about Sinners. Now before I continue with this video, if you like movie reviews and movie content, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Also, I have a movie playlist in the description, so do check it out. Anyway, back to the video. Now right out of the gate, before I get into any details, I want to say that Sinners is my favorite movie of the year so far. So Sinners is the latest film by director Ryan Coogler, who did both the Black Panther movies and Creed, as well as Fruitvale Station, which I haven't seen yet. And it's starring Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Delroy Lindo, Wanmi Musaku, and also introduces Miles Caton as a new actor. Now the story of Sinners follows twins known as the Smokestack Twins, played in a dual role by Michael B. Jordan, who come from Mississippi, but they've gone out and fought in a world war. This is post-World War I, and they've been to Chicago to do some business, but at the end of the day, they move back to Mississippi to open up a juke joint. And this juke joint is for the black folks who are working out in the fields, because this movie takes place post-World War I, but during the Jim Crow era in the South. Now, I'm not someone who claims to be very well versed in American history, but the Jim Crow era is basically the era of segregation in the South, where black folk and white folk were segregated. Black folk couldn't enter white establishments, and white people would try their best to not enter black establishments. And it's a time of massive racial discrimination. So one way in which black folk found release for their pain is through music, and that is through the blues. So back to the Smokestack Twins, they're trying to establish this juke joint, but this isn't just a period piece, because there are vampires about. So that's pretty much it for the plot of this movie, and I want to avoid speaking further on the plot because I don't want to spoil the movie that much in this video. Instead, I want to focus on Ryan Coogler. As I said, Ryan Coogler did the Black Panther movies and Creed and a few other films, and he is basically one of the biggest names, especially when it comes to being a black director in Hollywood. And it's pretty much safe to say that Sinners is his best film to date, because this film is very much layered, and with my knowledge I can only dissect limited layers, but there are so many people online, whether on YouTube or on other social media, that have tried to dissect this movie and just go through the layers that are in this movie. And the main theme of this movie is to do with race and religion. Because this takes place during the Jim Crow era, race is a big issue and a big point of tension. And we see that with the vampires, who are initially all white and they're trying to enter this juke joint, which is for black people. Now there is distrust from Smoke and Stack, who are the twins, and they don't want to allow these suspicious white people, because they don't know what happens, because they may not know that these guys are vampires, but the vibe is off and they don't want to allow them in. And there are also themes of mysticism and religion, because at the beginning of the movie, we get Wanmi Musaku kind of narrating the history of people who use music to channel the supernatural, the griots, the fillies, the firekeepers, and all that is kind of a Chekhov's gun, or it's kind of set up. It's set up for what happens in the movie. Now, one of the things I like about this movie is it's very clear cut into 3 acts, or you can split it into 5 acts if you like it, but I'll keep it at 3. And the first act is getting people to the juke joint, is assembling this ensemble cast at the juke joint. The second act is dealing with the vampires and finding out about the vampires, and the third act is the climax and the finale of the movie. Very clear cut. And for me, what I really liked about that is that the cuts in between these acts, you can pinpoint them to musical numbers, which is amazing. And that's one thing I want to highlight about this film, is that it is a little bit of a musical, because music plays a big part. As I mentioned, black folk at the time tried to escape their struggles using music, and that is through the blues, and blues music plays a big role in this movie, but also other types of music. And there are some incredible musical set pieces. That's because the cinematography during these musical sequences is incredible. One of the standout musical sequences is the I Lied to You sequence in the juke joint, and I think that during this sequence it was shot as a wonder, so you go through the entire juke joint seeing music from the past and the future coming together as Sammy, who is played by Miles Caton, is channeling the spirits of his ancestors and successors. And it's an incredible sequence. The music is amazing, and I had the pleasure of watching this in IMAX, so the sound system was perfect. And another standout sequence, another standout musical sequence in this movie was the Rocky Road to Dublin sequence. That's why I can't get that song out of my head, and that's because Jack O'Connell, who plays the main villain of this movie, does incredible during this sequence, not just with his singing but also his dancing. And when these sequences are happening on screen, you kind of get into them with the correct music, with a whole IMAX screen just kind of covering your entire peripheral vision. You get sucked into the moments. As for the acting, of course, Michael B. Jordan is the star of the show. He plays two characters, the Smokestack Twins, who are completely different people. They're completely different personalities, and he plays it well enough that you know that they're completely different personalities. You feel that they're completely different personalities. Stack is the sort of smart-talking, smiling, kind of cheerful guy who's gonna probably try and scam you at some points, but he's also capable of violence, whereas Smoke is the more serious one. He's all about the business, he's all about the money, and if you fuck with him, he will fuck you up. And Michael B. Jordan does a great job of conveying that through the screen, and it helps with the immersion in the story. You buy that these are two separate individuals with their own personalities and agendas and their own approach to life. Besides that, there's also Delroy Lindo, who I have come to appreciate quite recently, because the only other movie I've seen him or remember seeing him in was The Five Bloods, and he is a standout in that movie as well. He kind of acts as the comic relief in a sense in this movie, but he also brings a bit of that pain that black folk have gone through. Wanmi Masaku also is in this film, and when I first saw her on screen, I recognized the face of the actress, but I didn't know where I'd seen her from. Then I googled it and I realized, oh my god, that's Hunter B-15 from the Loki series and from Deadpool and Wolverine. And she is also incredible in this movie. She is the mystic of this film. She's the one who figures out that they're dealing with vampires, and she is a partner to Smoke. Haley Steinfeld is also in this film, and she definitely wasn't like the biggest part of the film, but she definitely has her character definitely has an important part to play, especially when it comes to Stack, because they have their own romantic history, and we can see the difference again between the two brothers in their choice of partners. As I mentioned previously, Jack O'Connell stars as Remick, who is the main villain, who is the big bad vampire in this movie, and he does an outstanding job as well, because there is a deeper lore to this vampire that isn't initially noticeable, but as the movie progresses, we kind of find out that he may not originally be from America, and I think Jack O'Connell performs incredibly well in the sequences he's in. When he's on screen, he is a presence. But I think the person that really stole the show and who held his own in this massive ensemble cast with these big actors is Miles Caton. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. See, this is Miles Caton's first film, and to think that he's able to hold his own against these actors is incredible, and I cannot wait to see what he does with his career. Not to mention, the boy can sing. I mean, his vocals are what lends itself to making the I Lied to You sequence incredible. His humming, his ability to sing the blues. Like, when he first sings in the movie, and Stack gets super hyped hearing him sing. Like, that's not just the reaction of Stack. Like, me in the audience, I had the same reaction. Like, god damn, the boy can play, the boy can sing. Also, the movie is scored by Ludwig Gorannson, who is now an Academy Award-winning composer for his work on Oppenheimer, but he has been a long-time collaborator with Ryan Coogler. He did the music for Black Panther, and the man is flexible when it comes to style, because with Oppenheimer you have these overt classical tones with I don't really know how to describe music in that way, but it feels heavy. The music in Oppenheimer is classical, it feels heavy, it feels tense. But now he's working on Sinners, and as I said, blues music plays a big part in the narrative of the story, and you can tell that he really took his time to go deep into blues music and music of that era, but also composing incredible sequences like, again, I Lied to You, and sort of repurposing some older songs like The Rocky Road to Dublin and the Pale Pale Moon sequence as well. Music is a massive part of this movie, and Ludwig Gorannson more than delivers. So if I were to really sort of sum up this movie, I would say it's a perfect movie-going experience in a sense, because we not only get a great historical period piece, we get incredible musical sequences, we get incredible characters whose interactions and chemistry with each other are top notch. The acting is incredible in this movie, but also this movie has an action in it. It's kind of an action movie as well, so you get that full package of a cinematic experience, and that's why I love this movie so much. In fact, in some places I've seen Ryan Coogler being likened to Quentin Tarantino for this movie, because you have that beginning where you try to assemble the ensemble cast, you've got the great music, and then that whole action climax ending. It's a complete package. It's a complete package. One thing I do recommend if you're going to see this movie, here in Malaysia, there's only one cinema showing it, and they're showing it in its standard ratio, a standard cinema hall. But if you have the chance, if you're elsewhere and you have the chance to see this movie in IMAX, please go see this movie in IMAX, because the taller aspect ratio of IMAX lends itself to some of these incredible sequences. The musical sequences especially are elevated in IMAX, especially with the IMAX audio system, the Dolby audio system that powers everything. It really sucks you in and allows you to fully immerse yourself in this movie. The first time I watched it in IMAX. I was blown away. The second time I went and watched it in a standard hall because there were no more IMAX showings, and the difference in experience is noticeable, especially when it comes to the musical sequences, the dance sequences. You don't really get to see a lot of what is happening compared to when you go and watch it in IMAX. All in all, I give Sinners a 9 out of 10. Have you seen Sinners? If you haven't seen Sinners and you have a chance to go see Sinners, go see Sinners. But if you have, please let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.